Welcome back to Voice Within, where stories are not just told, they're felt. Where we listen to the whispers of history that remind us one voice, one dream, one act of courage can reshape an entire world. Today, we journey into the life of a man whose dream refused to die. A man who faced hatred with hope, injustice with peace, and darkness with the light of truth. This is the story of Martin Luther King Jr., a preacher, a dreamer, a leader, and above all, a believer in the power of love. Let's go back to where it all began. Part 1. The Boy Who Believed in Fairness. It was January 15th, 1929, in Atlanta, Georgia. A child was born into a world divided by color, a society chained by segregation. His name was Michael King Jr., but later, his father, inspired by the German reformer Martin Luther, would rename him Martin Luther King Jr. From a young age, Martin saw the injustice that surrounded him. He watched as white-only signs split buses, schools, and neighborhoods. He felt the quiet pain of his father's anger when a white policeman called him by his first name, but refused to show him the same respect. Still, his father, Reverend Martin Luther King Sr., taught him this: "You are as good as anyone. Never let anyone make you feel otherwise." Those words became the foundation of his soul. Martin was a curious, thoughtful boy. He read, questioned, and often wondered, why should the color of skin decide the value of a person? That question would one day move mountains. Part 2. The Making of a Leader. By his teenage years, Martin was already ahead of his time. He skipped grades, entered college early, and pursued theology, the study of God, of meaning, of morality. But it wasn't just faith that guided him. It was reason. He believed that knowledge and love could walk hand in hand. While studying in Boston, Martin met a woman who would become his lifelong partner and strength, Coretta Scott, a woman of grace, courage, and music, who shared his dream for a better world. In 1954, Martin Luther King Jr. became a pastor at Dexter Avenue Baptist Church in Montgomery, Alabama. He was only 25. No one could have known that within a year he would be called to lead a revolution. Part 3. The Spark, the Montgomery bus boycott. It started with one woman, one act of quiet defiance. Rosa Parks, tired after a long day of work, refused to give up her seat to a white man on a Montgomery bus. Her arrest lit a fire across the city. Black citizens, tired of being treated as less, said enough. They organized a bus boycott, refusing to ride for 381 days. At the center of it all stood Martin Luther King Jr. Calm, eloquent, fearless. He preached not vengeance, but nonviolence. He told them, "We must meet hate with love. Darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do that." His house was bombed, he was threatened, arrested, and attacked, but he never stopped. Because deep inside, Martin knew, to change the world, you must first change hearts. Part 4. The March for Freedom. As the years passed, King's message spread like wildfire. From city to city, state to state, people of all colors began to believe that love could be stronger than hate. He led marches in Birmingham, Selma, and Washington, facing dogs, tear gas, and imprisonment. Each time he stood firm with the strength of peace. He wasn't fighting just for black people. He was fighting for the soul of humanity. Then came August 28, 1963, the day the world would never forget. Over 250,000 people gathered at the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. The air was thick with heat, hope, and history. And then Martin stepped to the microphone and began to speak. He had a written speech, but somewhere deep inside, his spirit whispered, "Speak from your heart." And so he did. "I have a dream." Those words echoed through time. They painted a vision of a future where children would not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. He spoke of justice, of unity, of a day when freedom would ring from every corner of America. And in that moment, he became not just a man, but a movement. Part 5. The Cost of Change. But dreams come with a price. The louder Martin's message grew, the more the forces of hatred tried to silence it. He was arrested more than 20 times. His phone was tapped, his life threatened. And yet, he never gave up. He expanded his fight beyond racial equality, speaking out against poverty and the Vietnam War. He said, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." By 1968, he knew the path ahead was dangerous, but he also knew his mission was greater than his fear. On April 3rd, in Memphis, Tennessee, he delivered what would be his final speech, a haunting message that seemed to sense the end. He said, "I've been to the mountaintop, and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we, as a people, will get to the promised land." The next evening, April 4, 1968, Martin Luther King Jr. was shot and killed on the balcony of the Lorraine Motel. He was only 39 years old. But his dream did not die with him.
Part 6. The Dream Lives On. They say you can kill the dreamer, but you cannot kill the dream. Martin Luther King Jr. left behind a legacy so powerful it continues to shape generations. His voice became a compass for justice. His dream became a mirror for humanity. Because his message was never just about America. It was about the human condition, about learning to see one another as equals, as reflections of the same divine light. Today, when we see a child of any race walk freely, study, speak, and live with dignity, we see his dream in motion. And though the journey is not complete, his words still remind us, the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. Part 7. The Voice Within. Every era needs its dreamers. Every generation needs its voices of peace. Martin Luther King Jr. taught us that real power is not in fists or fear, but in forgiveness. He proved that one person, guided by love, can awaken the conscience of the world. So ask yourself today, what is your dream? What injustice do you see and choose not to ignore? What mountain are you willing to climb? Because the world still needs voices, voices like yours, that speak truth when silence feels easier. And as you carry that dream forward, remember, peace is not passive. It is courage in motion. Thank you for listening to this episode of Voice Within. If this story touched your heart, let it remind you that change begins inside you, in your thoughts, your words, and your actions. Because when you speak kindness, you create light, and when you live your truth, you become the dream. This is Voice Within, where words heal the soul.